Welcome to Confessions of a Terrible Leader, where real leaders share the raw truth about the lessons they learned the hard way so you don't have to. Join our host, Layci Nelson, founder of Transcend Leadership Collective and former terrible leader. On this podcast, we invite you to step into the confessional and get real with the messy stories and behind-the-scenes reality of leadership. Let's get to it.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Confessions of a Terrible Leader. I'm your host and former terrible leader, Layci Nelson. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in again today. We have a treat. We have Terry Tucker with us today. Terry, welcome.
Layci, thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to talking with you.
I'm going to share a little bit about your background, who you are. Listeners, Terry is an author. He's a speaker. He's a former NCAA collegiate basketball player and a man that is really good at wielding sports metaphors. And if you've listened to our podcast before, you know that I am not. So this should be entertaining for those of you that know that I'm not allowed to use sporting metaphors because I call things like sporting and I say things like sports ball. I'm actually super excited to have you here, Terry. Before we hit record, I asked you what's your area of expertise and what was your response?
If you know what my area of expertise is, please let me know.
Right.
Because it's sort of the shotgun effect. It's kind of all over the place. A lot of it, I think for me, involves being part of sports teams as I was growing up and in college.
Yeah.
Being part of law enforcement, again, another kind of team concept. I coached girls' high school basketball when I was older. I think teams are so important to be part of a team. What you learn from a team, because the biggest team game we all play is this game of life.
Right.
You can learn at a young age how to be coachable, how to take criticism, how to be part of a team. You can be so successful when you get out and get into the world.
So true. And being coachable is applicable no matter what you're pursuing, right? Whether it's on a sports field or court or whatever, or if you're a musician, or if you want to be a great writer. If we don't have the capacity to be coached and responsive to the coaching, we're going to be our own worst limitation.
Yeah, you're right. The greats and whatever you want to put after it, the great athletes, the great musicians, the great clergy, the great teachers, whatever it is, those are the people that they don't want you to tell them how good they are or where they're good at it. They want to know their deficiencies. Where can I get better? How can I improve? Don't tell me how great I am. I don't care about that. I want to get better. How can I get better? And those are things that so few people do in the world. When you tell somebody, well, you could be better if you did this, most people get defensive. Oh, wait, no. The reason that didn't happen is X, Y, and Z. Why not just say, thank you. I appreciate the feedback. And you can think about that. Is that person true? Is what they say is true? Do I need to focus on that? Or no, I don't think that's true. I think I'm really good at that. They just haven't seen that part of my game or my repertoire or whatever it is. So I think you can't take what everybody says, but people you respect and people that know what they're talking about, you absolutely should be quiet and listen to those people on how you can get better at whatever it is you're doing in your life.
Absolutely. What are the hallmarks of someone who thinks they're coachable, but the evidence is not there that they're actually open to it? I'm sure you see it. The alignment isn't there. How do you spot that early? I'm thinking from the perspective of a boss. You want employees that are coachable. You want to bring in hires that are open to feedback, that are open to feed forward, to feed all the ways. And everyone's going to give the lip service that they are. But what are some flags where we can maybe spot it a little earlier? I'm not sure about the actual coachability here.
I think the first thing you can do is make a suggestion or a comment of maybe a deficiency or a way that a person can improve and see how they respond. Do they say something like, oh, interesting, I've never thought about that, or I've never looked at it that way? Or do they, like so many people do, well, the reason I don't do that is, and whatever excuse you want to give, we're great at giving excuses. Very few people, I think, take personal responsibility for their own success and happiness in life. If they don't get what they want, there's an excuse. There's a reason. Nobody says, yep, it was my fault. I remember I had a player on my team when I was coaching girls' high school basketball that I thought had the potential to be really good. And I was really riding her. It's like, no, do it again. You can do better. And she went home and told her mom, thinking that her mom was going to then intercede and call a coach and get things taken care of. And her mom was telling me the story after that. She said, I looked at her and I said, you've got one of two options. You can either quit, and we don't quit in this family, or you can take what he says to heart and you can look at how you can improve and get better. Those are your decisions.
Right.
And you have to decide. And she did. She absolutely elevated her game
Yeah.
Because when people criticize you, as long as they do it out of love, out of I care about you, out of you're
Right.
part of the team, not because I'm trying to stick it to you,
Right.
those are people you should listen to,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're coaches. I grant some coaches shouldn't be coaching, but if
Right.
you've played the game, if you've played instruments or you've sung in the choir, you're a teacher, you've got the knowledge and experience.
Right.
I want to raise your game.
Right.
Do you want to raise your game? And that's the first, I've been battling cancer for 13 years now. And one
Mm.
of the first questions my doctor asked me was, do you want to live?
Uh,
What do you mean, do I want to live? Do
right.
you want to live? Because you're going to go through hell. And I
Yeah.
got to know that you want to do this. Because if you don't want to do it, I don't want to put you through it.
Right.
It's the same thing with a coach. Do you want to get better? Do you
Yep.
want to be a better student? Do you want to be a better trumpet player? And
Right.
if the answer is no, great, that's fine.
Right.
I'm not going to waste my time as a coach trying to get you to a place where you don't want to be.
Yes. Yes. And people need to take the pause to not just knee jerk and say, yeah, I want it. You need to really think it through. It will come with a cost. It will come with a cost. Everything does. Are you willing to pay it? I think that we often don't spend enough time when we're in the coaching seat helping people understand what the cost will be before they give us a reactionary yes.
Yes, it's the cost of your time, your
Yeah.
commitment, your effort,
Your
versus
ego.
the cost of the disappointment of not putting in that time, that effort, things like that. You're going to have a cost either way.
Oh, yeah. There's a cost for everything.
Exactly. So do you want the cost to be something positive where you benefit from it? Or do you want the cost of regret? I wish I would have done that.
Right. So how many years have you been coaching?
Well, some of my players would say too many. I don't coach basketball anymore because of my cancer diagnosis, but I was a high school basketball coach for about 5 years, coaching a girls team.
Okay. And tell me about what I'm trying to do is paint a collective picture of your experience. How many years have you been impacting leading a team of any kind?
I would say my entire life. I've done that, whether it was playing sports when we were growing up and then playing in college. I coached kind of rec league ball when I first got into business and stuff like that, things on the weekend and nights and stuff like that. So I had a lot of experience. As you and I were talking before the show, I have two brothers and we were all college athletes. One of my brothers played professional basketball. And when my wife and I had our daughter, it was like, I don't have any sisters. I have no idea how to raise a girl.
Right.
And then to coach girls high school basketball was, you might as well drop me into the jungle somewhere that it was like, I am totally out of my element.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. I'll give you a quick story. We were playing a game and I pointed to one of the girls on the bench and I said, go in for so-and-so. And she shakes her head, yes. And I turn around, I'm watching the game. What do I need to do? Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the scorer's table and there's nobody there. So I turn back around her and point to her again. I said, go in for so-and-so. She, shakes her head, yes. And again, I go back to watching the game. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the scores table.
Nobody's there.
Then I turn back to her again and I'm like, get in the game for so-and-so. And Layci, now she's shaking me off like a big league pitcher, no, I don't like that sign. No. I'm like, what? You don't want to play? You don't want to go into the game. So I bring her to me and I'm like, oh my God, are we going to have a counseling session in the middle of a high school basketball game? I'm like, look, I need you in the game. Why don't you want to go in the game? All of a sudden the tears start down the cheeks. And she's like, Coach, I don't want to go in the game. I'm like, well, first of all, there's no uniform wearers on this team. You come out every day. You work hard to make yourself and your teammates better. You just don't get to sit on the bench and wear a uniform. Why don't you want to go? She said, because my friends are in the stands. And if I make a mistake, they're going to laugh at me. And I said, well, what about your commitment to your teammates? Like I said, you come out here every day, work hard in practice. What about your commitment to them? I need you in the game. I know you might make a mistake. That's okay. You give me your best effort. That's all I care about. And I finally talked her into going into the game. And as a guy, oh my God, you could be the worst person sitting on the end of the bench, have all kinds of splinters in your butt. And if a coach said get in the game, there was no question you were going.
You're going to go. Yeah.
And I'm not saying girls aren't competitive. They are incredibly competitive.
Yes, we are.
Girls play sports for a different reason. It's the camaraderie. It's the relationships that they develop with their teammates. Guys don't play sports for that reason.
So you had to adapt your coaching style to their main driver.
Big time.
Yes. So for listeners they're like, you know what? I think in my own journey, maybe it's not even career. Maybe it's they work for a paycheck, but they're really passionate about this thing they want to coach in, which is absolutely great. How do you make that transition from being a player to being a coach? What does the road look like? Because not all players are going to make great coaches.
Correct. As a matter of fact, the best coaches are usually not the best players.
Ooh, tell me about it. Tell
Yeah.
me how this works.
The all-time winningest basketball coach in men's college history is a guy by the name of Mike Krzyzewski. Coached at Duke, coached at Army. As a matter of fact, he recruited me to go play at West Point
Okay.
when I was in high school. He was a guard on the West Point basketball team. He played basketball at West Point. His coach was a man by the name of Bobby Knight, who coached at the University of Indiana.
Okay. I know who Bobby Knight
You know
is.
Bobby Knight.
That means that that's a big deal.
Was a big deal. So Bobby Knight started his coaching career at West Point and then went to the University of
Okay.
Indiana, won all kinds of national championships. He used to say that Krzyzewski's role was to distribute the ball to the people that could shoot.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, he said, if you shoot, I'll take you out of the game. And Gino Auriemma, who is the basketball coach at the University of Connecticut, the women's coach, very successful, one of the greatest programs in college, he talks about, I treat my players fairly, but not equitably. And what he means by that is, if you're a great ball handler, but a terrible shooter, I don't want you shooting.
Right, right.
So Coach K goes on, not a great college basketball player, but a tremendous coach at Army and then all over the number of years he's coached at Duke and retired a couple of years ago. And so I think you got to have a passion for what you do.
Right.
I think you hear a lot of commencement speakers talk about follow your passion. I'm going to tell you not to follow your passion because passion is an emotion. I will tell you not to follow your passion, but I'll tell you to bring it with you wherever you go. I would tell you to follow your purpose. And I think that's different than your passion. So find your purpose and then be passionate about that purpose. What do you love to do? I love basketball. Okay. Now you need to be a student of the game. And I think great leaders are also servant leaders. I need to learn. I need to understand. If you have that, whatever that is, I firmly believe, I have a very strong faith in God, but we don't have to talk about that. But I firmly believe that we're all here with a purpose. We're all here for a reason.
Yes.
Figure out what that reason is. That'll be the reason you want to get up in the morning and go do whatever it is. Maybe you go work in an office. Maybe you go coach. Whatever it ends up being, but find that purpose in your life and then live it. And oh my God, your life is going to be so great if you do that.
So rich. Yes. So when we're working with leaders, training leaders, one of the things that we often walk them through is to get to what exactly you're talking about is understanding their sense of purpose and looking for patterns in their life because there's a little breadcrumb trail. You just have to learn how to see it. Understanding how to look for those patterns in your life. From the time you're a child, it starts to surface and become evident. And then once you can start to see, I have always been drawn to this higher calling or this higher something that's typically bigger than yourself and typically about, doesn't always have to be about people. Sometimes it's about art, which everything impacts people, right? Maybe it's having an eye for beauty in the world and seeing things differently than other people do. Maybe it's a huge compassion for animals. Maybe it's whatever. But what is that higher thread in your life and asking those deeper level questions around it? Not just stopping at what are you passionate, I really liked animals. Okay, why? Or I've always really hated bullies. Why? Digging into like at least 5 rounds of asking why, getting under those layers. And we start to surface that. And then once you got your hands around that, that's exactly right. You can then take that and anything you do in your life can then become a vehicle to be able to live out that, whether it's at work, whether it's coaching, whether it's volunteering at your kid's school, whatever you're doing, that just comes with you. I think, and tell me if you agree with this, I think that in my experience working with people coaches, how to coach people well, to have people skills in that coaching arena, you can only take someone as deep as you've been yourself.
Yeah. There's a saying, and I may mess it up a little bit, the tree that grows to heaven has its roots in hell.
Unpack that for me. What does that mean to you?
Let me tell you a story that would illustrate it better. 2003, there's an International Entrepreneur of the Year by the name of Ed Mylett. He talks about the 4 types of people in the world. And the first group he talks about are the unmotivated. And he said, those are the people that just kind of muddle through life. They never look for their purpose. They never find it. They're always griping. There's always drama around them. And he said, that's the vast majority of people that you will encounter in your life. The second group he talks about are the motivated. And he said, that's kind of a carrot and stick approach to life. If I do this, I will get that. He says, kind of low level, but it works for a lot of people to have a very happy and successful life. The third group he talks about are the inspirational people. The word inspiration coming from 2 words, in spirit. So if you're an inspirational person, you move people with your energy.
Mm,
And then the last group he talks about are the aspirational people, where people aspire to be like you. And sometimes if
mm.
I'm giving a talk with a group, depending on how formal it is, I'll tell that story. And all right, show of hands, how many people are unmotivated? Nobody raises their hand.
Oh, no one's
Nobody
going to say
ever
me.
says, I'm unmotivated. But if you believe Milet, the vast majority of people are. So how
Yeah.
does that tree get to heaven if its roots are in hell? By going through adversity, by going through difficult times. Nobody grows when they're comfortable. And if you're
Yes.
not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
Those hard, those difficult experiences, you may have grown up in an alcoholic father family who beat the heck out of you. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. It's your responsibility to understand the lesson you're supposed to learn. I don't think any of us suffers in a vacuum. There's a reason. I always say people need to find meaning in their misery, a message in that misery. What's life trying to teach you? And the more misery you go through, the higher that tree can grow until hopefully you are that aspirational person where people aspire to be like you.
I like that. And I think also I like the growth part because it's not thinking about it as a living organism. It's not going to happen without intentionality. You're not going to grow a big, strong, healthy tree unless it's planted in the right spot, unless you're giving it water, unless you're pruning it on a regular basis. There's things required for that tree to thrive. Even in the forest, when human hands aren't involved, it needs to be in the right location and have the right variables at play, but understanding that has to happen with intention. So I think of that, like, people have been through horribly traumatic things in life. And yes, I also share the belief that no one necessarily deserves that, or they're not at fault for what other people have done in their life, that they have been the recipients of people's terrible, hurtful actions. And they're a child, they're innocent. They're not even playing a role in it with any sort of power. Looking at that, it can't just passively be hoping some good is going to come from it. Like you said, learning that lesson, what is it trying to teach me? Where's the beauty in the ashes? Where can I tend to? How can I tend to it so it can grow into this big, beautiful tree? And resilience is born in adversity. I don't think you can be a resilient person without adversity, because how are you resilient if you've never had adversity? So what are you resilient to? You've never tested it. You think you might be, but has it been tested? I'm weaving thoughts here as I'm talking to you. Thank you for your patience.
It's so true. I've learned a lot of things from cancer. And two
I
of the
bet.
big things that I've learned is just what you were saying. I don't think you truly know yourself until you've been tested by some form of adversity in your life, whatever that looks like. Doesn't have to be cancer or anything like
Right.
that. And the second thing that I've learned is that, and this is going to sound probably kind of weird, cancer has made me a better human being. I mean, if I had the opportunity to go back, and I've been asked this question, if you could go back in time and not have cancer, would you do it? And Layci, I don't think I would. I'm sitting here, you can't tell us, I'm in a wheelchair. I don't have a left leg. My left leg has been amputated because of my cancer. I have tumors in my lungs. As bad as that's been, that has made me a better human being. And I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah. I have had a lot of people in my life that have had battles with cancer, and some have come out the other side and some haven't. My question is, what's the differentiator between those that say, this is going to make me a better person, and those where I think from the outside, we think, oh, someone goes through that experience and they have your response, the response of, I'm going to find the gift in this somewhere. I'm going to dig through the crap and I'm going to find the gift. And I'm going to come out with a better, healthier, more connected, more loving persona on the other side. That is not how it always ends for people. That isn't the default. What is the difference? I mean, I know you can only speak to your own experience, but I'm guessing you probably know others who are battling or have battled cancer. What's the difference between those people that it just destroys them emotionally, spiritually, and those that go, okay, game on. Let's take living to the highest level?
I guess in a word, I'll say mindset. In 2012, when I was diagnosed, I was told I'd be dead in 2 years. And I thought, well, okay, you gave me a death sentence. Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence. I certainly never expected to be here 13 years later. Doctors, and this is going to sound kind of funny, doctors are kind of like Vegas. They handicap you based on your age, your overall health status, and the stage that your cancer is. Okay, you're going to live 2 years, 5 years, 10, whatever.
Right.
But what doctors don't know is that, you know what? I want to see my daughter graduate from high school. I want to see my daughter walk across the stage, at the Air Force Academy and shake hands with the President of the United States on the day she graduates from college. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. I want to play with my grandkids.
Yeah.
Those things that you have to look forward to are really what propels you. And it really is your mindset. Your mind controls your body. And I have seen people, and this scares the heck out of me, where doctors will say, okay, Bob, you'll be dead in 2 years. And literally on the date, the anniversary that the doctor said that 2 years later, those people die. I want my life to be shaped by the decisions that I made, not by the ones I didn't make or that somebody else made for me. So I want to be involved in my healthcare. My wife tells a story much better than I do. She said when I was first diagnosed, the oncologist pulled her out of the room and said, I've got to tell him that he's probably going to be dead in 2 years. How's he going to handle that? And my wife said, I just looked at her and laughed and said, go ahead and tell him that. See if your prediction comes true.
Right.
It's
right.
like, no.
Yeah, it was a challenge. Yeah.
It all starts in your head. If you believe you're going to die in 2 years, you're going to die in 2 years. If you believe that there's something bigger, and I do, I think that my reason for being here is much bigger, as you said, is much bigger than me. And that purpose is to show my God's goodness, caring, love, mercy, grace, healing to other people. So you use me as long as you want. You do whatever you want. When it's my time, I'm ready to go. I mean, I planned my funeral. And it's so funny when I did, I got all kinds of brushback from people.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's kind of defeatist? I'm like, well, the last time I checked, I think we're all going to die. Don't think anybody's working on a cure for life right now.
Right.
Every one of us is going to die, but not every one of us is going to truly live. And I'll end with this. There's a Native American Blackfoot proverb that I heard years ago, and it goes like this. When you were born, you cried, and the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. That's what I want.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Terry, you didn't gain all this wisdom in your life without making some mistakes. I'm pretty sure that there's been some hard lessons learned, some areas of looking back that you go, yep, I'd take cancer again, but if I could do this over, I maybe wouldn't have done it the same way. So I'm going to invite you to step into the confessional and share with us what is a leadership mistake, misstep, learning opportunity, however you want to frame it, in your own life that you look back on and you're like, ooh, this was a pretty big one. And then how did it shape the way you lead today?
That's a great question. I guess I'll tell one from a personal side and I'll tell one from a coaching side.
Okay, yeah.
I'll start with the coaching one. In my life, I've been captains of basketball teams and things like that. And that's usually, okay, you're the senior, you're going to be a captain. That doesn't make you necessarily a leader. And that's how I used to do it when I first started as a coach. And I think it was absolutely the wrong way to pick a leader, to pick a captain. And I found this, it's 10 questions. I looked for it before we jumped on here and I couldn't find it. But it was 10 questions that you give to each member of the team. And it's questions like, if you had a problem with another teammate, which player would you go talk to? And there are 3 spaces. And then,
great question.
Who on the team is best at holding the rest of the players accountable? First, second, and third. And you take all these questions. And if whoever's in the first slot in each question gets 3 points, the second spot, 2 points, 1 point. And at the end, you add it up. And a lot of times it was juniors or even sophomores that the team looked at as the leaders of the team. And I would
love
make
that.
this. And I think as that leadership goes, you've got to develop that culture. If you have good leadership and you know what your values are, that leads to a good culture.
Yeah.
The other one was with our daughter. I was a SWAT hostage negotiator. I had all this training about how human beings communicate with each other.
Yeah.
I knew all this stuff. And then I would go home, and when our daughter was 3, she'd look at me and take a glass of milk and then just dump it on the floor. And I would go into total dad mode and just, what did you do that for? And I'm like, oh my God, you have all this training and experience and you're totally reverting to emotion.
Right.
You're dealing with your 3-year-old daughter who's just trying to push your buttons.
Right.
You have to make those mistakes in life and say, yeah, I really screwed that up. And you do it and you can decide, did I learn something from that? Or, yeah, I'd do it again if I had to do it and stuff like that. I wish I drove our daughter pretty hard. And I think she will tell you she's a better person because of it. I'm not so sure I was always in the right when I did the things I did.
Yeah. That's a very vulnerable share. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you. Terry, you're a fascinating guy. I mean, I think I could talk to you for 4 more hours. if you have the time and space, we'd love to have you back and dig into some more of this and your journey with your battle of cancer and your SWOT history. I mean, I've got 14,000 more questions. Thank you for opening up today, for being willing to be vulnerable and share so many intimate details of what is going on and has happened in your life. I really appreciate that. I'm sure our listeners enjoyed me following along sports analogies. And your sports stories are great. I always wish I was better at it. There's an area I need to get better at it because they're so relatable for most of the population. So,
But not
and then,
everybody.
yeah.
And that's just it. You got to read the room. You got to play to your audience. I spent 8 years in Trumpet 101. So,
Oh.
I understand how that works. I was the only person who the band director said, okay, in the spring concert, just pretend like you're playing.
Oh my gosh.
You're so bad. I don't
That
want
was
to
me playing basketball. Oh, okay. True story. I'm going to tell you this because you'll appreciate it. I played basketball in middle school.
Okay.
And I played on a few teams, dabbled, but I played AAU in middle school. And then I just decided I'm going to get good at it. So I dedicated my summer. I didn't have a coach. It was just myself. And then to go down to the local court and just play. And I was just going to play. I was going to play with people. And I thought, okay, I'm working this hard. Like it must pay off. Well, then that next year, it was AAU. So you made the team, right? Like it wasn't really like competitive as far as making the team, or I wouldn't have made it. But I'm playing AAU and my coach gently pulls me aside and says, honey, we were practicing layups. Do you need glasses? And at that point, I didn't need glasses. Thank you, childbearing. My eyes went after I had kids. But the coach was like, do you need glasses? I was like, no, I don't need glasses. I was that bad, Terry, that the coach, the only thing after trying so many things, I mean, they really tried with me, but I did not. I was your version of just pretend you're playing. That was, it takes us all, right?
It does. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, you learned it in just a different way. So,
Oh my gosh. Yes. I was so bad. Yeah. But I played anyway. And then I'd foul out every game because all I would do is just be the muscle out there. And
But you need the enforcers. That's right. Those are good
that
people
was
to have.
it. I was the one that just, they stuck me on people and that was it. I probably should have played like rugby or roller derby, but yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much, Terry. You're awesome. I really appreciated talking to you today. Where can people find you if they want to follow along on your journey and your inspiration? And you just have so much to share.
Layci, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this as well. I have a website, a blog called Motivational Check. So go to motivationalcheck.com. You can look at all kinds of things there and you can also leave me a message. And I love hearing from people. So please reach out.
Excellent. Okay, well, we will drop that link in the show notes. And listeners, go find Terry. I'm looking forward to hearing more and learning more. And I'm sure this is the first of many conversations. Thank you, Terry, so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And you know the drill, listeners. Until next time, go manage like a leader.
Thanks for listening to Confessions of a Terrible Leader. If you're feeling brave and have your own terrible leader story that you'd like to share, head over to transcendleadershipcollective.com/podcast to fill out a guest application. We'd love to hear from you. Confessions of a Terrible Leader is hosted by Layci Nelson and produced and edited by Fixation Point Productions. Music is by Leif Olson and Mary Scott from the band The Number of Months. Confessions of a Terrible Leader is a free leadership resource offered by Transcend Leadership Collective. If you are ready to refuse the limits of average leadership and join the leadership revolution, visit transcendleadershipcollective.com to check out our offerings for engaging workshops, strategic planning, and more. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And until next time, go manage like a leader.